Thank you, Louise, and hello, everyone, and welcome to OTF Connects. Thank you for giving of your precious time to join us tonight. I know some of you are here with your children doing homework or taking care of your children, so I appreciate that you can give your time to join us after a busy day. It's my pleasure to welcome again Mally Bickley and Jim Carlton. Unfortunately, Jim is having some technical difficulty, and we hope that he will be able to join us shortly. Mally and Jim, over the last 3 years, have facilitated numerous OTF Connects webinars, and they certainly bring a lot of experience to share with all of us. So looking forward to tonight's session on connecting students globally with the revised social studies curriculum. I know this is a need for everyone, and hopefully it'll meet all your needs. So I'll stop talking and pass the mic over to you, Mally. Welcome, Mally.
Hi, Syria. Thanks, Syria and Louise. And as always, we really appreciate your support and for what we do, and OTF for everything that they've done for us and for iEARN, which we'll be talking about today. I'm just getting messages from Jim. Because he has to download the Java, he lives way in the boonies, and his download speed is really, really slow. So he's doing his best to get in, and sometimes we'll go to a Starbucks and do it from there, but we both had, it's staff meeting night, so we didn't even factor that into the equation when we said, oh yeah, November 3rd is awesome. So anyway, I'm going to have to tap dance and play the role of both me and Jim, which is okay because we work so closely together that we know each other's material and our classes and our kids because we do communicate so well together. So we're going to talk about, and I'm just going to move the slides. I'm trying to advance the slides, it's not moving. There it is. So we're going to talk about how we connect students globally, and with a specific focus hopefully on social studies, because I know that's why you're here, looking for ideas to implement the new social studies curriculum. Personally, I think it's an amazing curriculum. I think it opens a whole wealth of opportunities for students and for teachers. It's really engaging, it's really exciting, but that whole inquiry-based learning and the students taking direction or going in the direction of material that interests them can be a little bit intimidating. So, and always a curriculum change is a huge shift for all of us, but it's exciting at the same time. So as I go through, I just want you to think about this quote. It's a friend of ours. Her name is Jennifer Corriero, and she's the executive director of a program called Taking It Global. We're going to talk about them towards the end of the presentation. And if you think about your students' role in society, which is really what social studies is all about, our role in society. So think about what she said, and you've made it when you've made it onto a Starbucks cup, and she made it onto a Starbucks cup when she was 19 years old, so she's a pretty cool person. So she said, I wonder if young people were actively engaged in all aspects of society and thought of themselves as community leaders, problem solvers, role models, mentors, and key stakeholders. How would the world change? So just think, if we frame some of the things that we'll be talking about in that quote, I think a lot of things will make sense. So the next few slides are actually Jim's, so okay. So often when we talk about ICT, because a lot of these projects that we're going to be talking about, we communicate and collaborate with students around the world using technology. And if you look at the C part of the ICT as being the most important, the information part is important, the communication part is really important, and the technology supports both things. But look at the C part as communication, collaboration, contribution, cooperation, community, co-learning, change, creativity, character, and critical thinking. And you might have heard things like 21st century skills or the 6 C's or something like that, but it's really using the technology is focusing on those C words, the character words, the community, the co-learning, and the change, and the critical thinking. And you're going to hear a lot of those as we move through the next few years in education. I know that there's a huge shift in the way that 21st century learning is going, and it's focusing on that C part. Oh, my slide changer is really slow. There we go. And another thing that we need to think about when we're introducing students to using some of these technology tools is, and integrating them into our programs and supporting our curriculum using them, because kids are out there building their own blogs. We know that they're podcasting, they're video sharing like crazy. My kids, my 9 and 10-year-olds in grade 4 are creating videos and putting them on YouTube and wanting to get, you know, as many followers as they possibly can. It's a really big topic right now. They're in social networking, you know, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Micro-networking is actually Twitter, and just all of those tools that connect us so well. As they communicate, collaborate, create, and contribute to this global society. And when we first started doing these presentations, we really realized that a lot of times kids, and they still, you know, they were and they still are, trying to make the rules up as they go along, because they're in this digital world, and they really are you know, you hear the terms digital natives. They are the digital natives, and there haven't been a lot of rules for these kids. And they really need to have some adults to guide them along the process. We used to talk about it, or we still do talk about it, as Lord of the E-Flies. These kids were out on E-Fly Island, and they were making up their own rules. They were getting in all sorts of trouble. There was, you know, there was and still is a lot of there are a lot of issues surrounding things like digital bullying or cyberbullying, inappropriate use of the internet. So we really want the adults to frame a lot of the use of technology and think about those digital citizenship rules. And this isn't a presentation on digital citizenship, but you'll see that throughout this we're having the kids use the tools in meaningful and engaging and real life situations and ways in which they can be responsible using the internet, and they need to have those opportunities. So what is global collaborative learning? So global collaborative learning in any situation, in any topic, is partnerships formed with students and educators from around the world. And it's not necessarily just around the world. It can be with a classroom down the street, or you can be working even with collaborating with your teaching partner. It's just opening up the doors of your classroom and having the kids inquire and learn together. The ICTs are used to foster communication and collaboration, and I think you'll see as we go along that the communication and collaboration are enabled by the technology, but we're not using the technology for the sake of using the technology. It's just not having the technology available for the kids to be replacing a pencil or whatever, but there's real life applications for the technology. There's some tasks and problems that are to be solved that are really meaningful, and you see some problem solving and critical thinking that's going along. It prepares students to become literate and responsible using the internet, talking about digital citizenship, and they're taught to use the tools meaningfully, respectfully, and responsibly, and in an engaging way. Yeah, Louise, my slide forward is going really slowly. So we want to really reinforce that none of the projects that we're talking about or collaborations that we're talking about are just a standalone social studies project. I think one thing that we really need as teachers is to think about how, and especially in an inquiry-based model, how is the learning integrated? Because I think the one thing that I'm learning and have learned over my past 33 years of being a teacher, and I can say in all certainty that this is definitely my last year of teaching, the one thing that I know is that there's not enough time in the day to get everything done, and the way that we can approach tasks is by curriculum integration. And so although we're trying to focus on social studies, you're going to see that there is a lot of science and technology, there's a lot of the arts involved, there's some physical and health education. In, if you look at the OFIA curriculum for health education, and digital citizenship comes up in every single grade, and a lot of language and math integration as well. So it's not just social studies. So this is the presentation that you want. We're going to try and frame it in with the social studies focus, but also understanding that the programs are definitely integrated into all other curriculum areas, because there just isn't enough time in the day to get everything done. And the one thing I love about working in an integrated program is at the end of the day, the kids will say to me, "Is the day over yet?" And I'm like, "It's over already." And I'm wiping my brow and flopping in the chair and saying, "Yeah, it's over." And because it's so it's such a fluid kind of approach to teaching, that the day moves really quickly, and things move from one to the other. It's really awesome. Okay, so the main organization that I'm going to talk to you about is called iEARN, and we joined iEARN about 10 years ago, and iEARN stands for the International Education and Resource Network, and the site is, I'll be referencing the site, and I know Louise is really great about putting in links to the site, the sites that we talk about as we go along, and then we'll also do, she'll send you the links at the end. So iEARN is at iEARN.org, and it's an organization of about 250,000 teachers in 45 countries around the world that connect students in all of those classrooms. And the projects that the students work on are all curriculum-based, but they also have a heavy social justice side to them. They connect these students. All of the projects are done in English, with the exception of very few. So unfortunately for the people that are teaching French, there aren't many French projects. However, you can find French-speaking partners in French-speaking countries in Europe, and also in Africa, on the west side of Africa. So I just want to show you a little video, and I think, yeah, Louise, now maybe Louise, you can explain how videos are going to work.
There we go. Sorry guys, my interface froze for a second there. In light of a few people having a little bit of lagging issues, what we're going to do is we're going to give you the link to the video in the chat box rather than in the web tour space. The last thing we want is to bump somebody out tonight. So the video that I'm about to drop into the chat space there is an introductory video on iEARN that Nellie has shared with us. And when you click on the link in the chat, it's going to open up your own browser window. When you're finished watching the video, just come back into the Blackboard Collaborate space, and you will find the Blackboard symbol in your dock at the bottom of your window screen, and it's the purple circle with the 2 white arrows on it. And then give us a green check mark. Here it is. Okay, it looks like most of you are finished your video, and for those of you that might not know where to find your green check mark, underneath your name in the participants box, there's 4 little icons, and the very right-hand side one is a check mark, and if you have your mouse over there, you'll be able to find it. Perfect, thanks. And Mallie, your mic's not on.
Is my mic on again? I'm having trouble. The slides aren't aren't progressing very quickly. So I hope you got the idea from the video, that just little introduction video, that iEARN is an organization that connects students around the world. And it really, to us, has been, we think, one of the best kept secrets in education. And that, as I said, we've been doing this for about 10 years. And really, we've been finding that it was really difficult to explain how to do this to people a few years ago, and why it was so important for students and why it was so important for us. But what we're finding now is it's becoming, people are starting to get really interested, and they're seeing the potential in connecting students and learning together and learning with them. So we really hope that you'll take a little bit of a look. So we're going to give you an opportunity, and I keep saying we because I know that Jim's giving me directions from his text. So we're going to give you a little bit of an opportunity to look at some of the projects in iEARN in just a second and take a look at the project book. But within the project book, there are about 250 projects. They're all divided into curriculum area, and we're going to actually ask you to look at just specifically the social studies area, because you really know your students best and your curriculum, although I have taken a pretty good look at the elementary curriculum. It's more specifically K to 6, because I am a grade 4 teacher, and I have been a technology coach for our school for K to 8, but you can look through we're going to give you an opportunity to look through the project book. It's divided into curriculum areas, and it's also divided into, once you're in the curriculum areas, it's also divided into secondary or elementary. Now, having said that, a lot of these projects, because the students in other countries who are also accessing iEARN, they use it as a vehicle to help them learn English. So you might find a project where it goes from K to 8, and now our kindergartens are fairly fluent in English. It might not be necessarily in some of our schools. I'm thinking in my school in particular, where we've got heavy ESL and ELL. But you might be paired with an older class in another country who are just learning English as another language. So the link, so when you get into the project book, what you're going to see is the dividing into content areas, and I've just done a screen capture of part of the humanities and social studies. And also, once you get into the project book, you're also going to see a description of some of the social studies projects. So what we want you to do in the next couple of minutes is go into the project book, and Louise has very kindly put the link to the project book, and put a link to the project book. So click on that link, and it will take you in another window into the project book, and you can look at the PDF or the flip book. So we just want you to get you actively sort of getting your mind around what you can see when you look in the project book. Then what we're going to do is we're going to do another little activity in something called a wall wisher or a Padlet, where we're going to share what we learned. So I'll give you maybe 5 minutes to take a look. How many minutes, Louise? Maybe 5 or 8 minutes to look at the project book, because it's nothing. It doesn't need to be downloaded. You can look at the. So I'm just thinking, thumbs up if you are ready to go on to the next thing, because I think right now we're sharing some ideas, and I do have a way in which that we can share some ideas that we can keep them sort of archived, that you can go back to it, and it's something that we can also build on that we're going. Yeah, I love the sound of that book. I'll definitely have to go and get it, because we're doing a couple things in our class. We're doing Rights of the Girl, and we're also doing we're helping, we're doing a Free the Children activity that we can help build a school in Sierra Leone. So that sounds like a fabulous book. Okay, so our next, what I'd like you to do, if you did have a chance to look through, and I see that a couple of you had the opportunity to find a couple of projects, what we're going to do is add our ideas and what we found on something called a Padlet. It was called a wall wisher before, and if you go to the link, and I'm actually going to go to it as well so that it will open in a new window. If you click on that link, it's going to take you to another window, and what I would like you to do, or what we would like you to do, is after you glance through the book, just you're going to add your ideas on a sticky note. And in order to add your ideas on a sticky note, you're going to double click anywhere on the wall, and when you double click, it's going to bring up almost like a little sticky note. And just post just a quick response to the prompt, and jot down any projects that you might think would be able to be implemented in your social studies project, and to share your ideas and the grade that you think it would be appropriate for. And then, are there any other curriculum areas that this one might support as well? Now I'm looking for, I'm looking through that really quickly, and we'll stop that in just a second, but I see that there's a lot of ideas out there, and actually projects that I haven't even participated in yet. So the person who asked about the celebration project, I do have one that will come in really handy. The celebration, Jackie, you said the celebration project was in English, but there is one that we're going to talk about right off the bat that would be really good to involve your grade 2s in, and something that's a really popular project, but it's also one that supports the grade 2 curriculum. So we're just going to go on. So awesome ideas. The natural disaster one, Allison, is a really, really well facilitated project, and I'll explain that in a little bit. How projects are facilitated. The natural disaster one is fabulous, and they actually have what's called a National Disaster Summit Day in Taiwan that you can actually join virtually, and where kids share on an international scale, a huge international scale, where they share their information. And yeah, these are really great ideas. And the Girls Rising project is a brand new project that they just started this year, and had a lot of talk about that one at the conference that I'll talk about in a sec. So I'm just going to go on. So as you see, there's tons of projects in there, and we're only going to be able to touch on 5 or 6 because, well, first of all, there are so many. And second of all, because there's no way that we can have experienced all of them, though we do know lots of people who have participated in several of these. So if at any point you have a question about any of the projects, you can either send one of us a message and ask us about them, or when you're in the project space that we'll tell you how to get into in a little bit, you can ask any of the facilitators. So the first one is holiday cards. And this is a great project where you exchange holiday cards. You create cards about holidays in Canada, and then you exchange them with 8 to 10 classes from around the world. And what happens is when you sign up for the holiday card project, you sign up in what's called the iEARN forum, the project space. And within iEARN, they have password-protected project spaces where you go in, you register for a project. Somebody in that project who runs the project will pair you with somebody else and give you all the information that you need to start to get going on your project. So holiday cards, when you do sign up, and the sign up is now, and the sign up goes until about November the 15th. Then you sign up for the project, and then the person who is in charge of the sign up, her name is Judy Barr, and she's from Australia, and she will put you in a group with 8 or 10 other classes from around the world. And so all of these classes in your circle are making cards that explain about the holidays, the specific holidays in their culture. So for example, if you get paired with classes in China or in Taiwan, you get to learn about Chinese New Year. We traditionally teach the other classes about Christmas and Thanksgiving and Halloween and Remembrance Day and Mother's Day. So you make the cards and you write little letters of explanation to explain about the holidays. And then you send the cards to the different classes. So I'm just going to show some pictures of some of the students and some of the cards that they've made. So these are the cards actually that we received from other classes from around the world. These are ones that my kids received. Last year we made Remembrance Day cards and Halloween cards, Thanksgiving cards. There's the Remembrance Day one. So the students in grade 6 wrote letters to our partners in the other countries and explained what Remembrance Day was all about. We also wrote and explained about Thanksgiving, and we taught them why Thanksgiving was at a different date than it is in the United States. So even for our partners in the United States, some of the kids in the U.S. had no idea that the kids in Canada celebrated Thanksgiving at a different time. So then you send all the cards off to your 8 partners around the world, and the great thing is that you receive cards from those students. At the same time, the kids are communicating in some iEARN forums, and I'll show you them in a second, and they're posting photographs of themselves receiving the cards from you. So it's really exciting for the kids to receive images of kids in other countries holding their cards. And in this picture in particular is a class in the Ukraine, and there's another one of the kids in the Ukraine holding their cards as well. So here they are receiving our cards. The next slide should be how we communicate. Okay, so as we're making the cards and preparing our letters of explanation about our holidays, the students are sharing information about their holidays and their school and themselves in the iEARN forums. And forums they're almost like blog posts where you can have a conversation with another class, that the class will post a discussion or they will post a question, and then kids from around the world or who is ever in that project can go back into that project and can answer the questions or put a response in where they're getting the conversation going about holidays. So in this particular blog post, the kids were sharing the pictures of the cards that they'd created and sort of giving the other classes a little bit of anticipation that these cards were coming. When we did the project a couple of years ago, one of the students posted a question about Christmas carols and what particular Christmas carols that we had in Canada or you know, in this case, and in Russia and the United States and in Australia. So the kids started posting YouTube videos about of their Christmas carols and holiday songs, and it was really great to have those sort of that authentic feel of the holidays. And our kids were running around the hall singing an Australian Christmas carol called 8 Fat Boomers, and it was all about 8 fat boomers driving Santa's sleigh, and the 8 fat boomers were kangaroos. So our kids learned that in Australia, kangaroos actually carried Santa through the holiday. They carried his sleigh. So that led to yet another opportunity to learn with the students. So the kids in the forum said, well, could we actually meet and could we talk about some of our holiday traditions, not just sending our cards back and forth? And because we have tools like Illuminate and Adobe Connect and now Skype and Google Hangout, it's a little bit it's a little bit easier for kids to be sharing live. So in Australia, the kids went to school early. They needed to be at school at 7 o'clock in the morning, and our kids came to school at 8 o'clock at night. And we used Adobe Connect, and we had a Connect session where the kids actually met, and we shared some of our holiday traditions, and we shared some Christmas carols, and they decided that they wanted to have a snack together. So the kids in Australia had sent our kids a jar of Vegemite or a package of Vegemite, and we ate it together as we sort of celebrated the holiday together. So there's a picture coming up of the kids trying the Vegemite. Here's a picture of the kids with the video conference, and you can see that there's parents in the room, and there are lots of kids, and it was great. And there's a picture also of the class, in Australia as we were meeting, and it was really great. So that was just another extension. And things like that happen in these projects because we have the opportunity to do some live sharing. That often a class will approach another class and say, can we actually get together online and talk about and actually meet each other and talk about our project, and it works out really well. And what we find is the kids get really, really excited. They really put a lot of work into their presentations for one another, and they because they're having actually to teach about their holidays and traditions. I find that they put a lot more work into their presentations, and we've never ever had one. We've never had a group of kids not be prepared. So I'll go on to the next project, the Teddy Bear Project. And this was supposed to be Jill's project to talk about. So the Teddy Bear Project is another project this is a really popular one. I would suggest this can be done anywhere from kindergarten to grade 6. However, we have done it with grade 8 students. It just gets a little, you have to be creative when you're doing it with the older students, but the kids, I find from kindergarten to grade 6 do get really excited about this project. And the premise of this project is very similar to Flat Stanley, and that is that a teddy bear is a traveling ambassador. So 2 classes get together, you sign up for the Teddy Bear Project in the forums, and there's a Teddy Bear Project forum, and you sign saying that you would like to get a partner. And then you and a partner will send a teddy bear to each other, or an animal, or anything else that represents your country. And that animal becomes an ambassador for the classroom. And the students in that classroom take the teddy bear or whatever to different parts of the country, and they report back to the class that sent them. So, for example, we have a teddy bear from Brazil, we have one from Peru, and we have one from Argentina. And the students take the teddy bears all over Bradford and all over Ontario, and it's actually going to be going to Florida, and it's going to be going to Paris in the next couple of months. and the students take pictures of it, and then we share those pictures about our community or our life at school or whatever the concept is with the partner class. So in this particular situation, the students, these are the teachers that are in the Teddy Bear Project this year. Jim and I had the fantastic opportunity to be in Argentina this summer at the iEARN conference. iEARN has an international conference once a year, and it's hosted in a different country every year. So this year it just happened to be in Argentina, and we took our teddy bears with us so that we could do a physical exchange. Sometimes it does become very expensive to send the teddy bears back and forth. Often we ask our parent council if they will cover the shipping, and most of the times that they do, because the kids get so excited about the projects that they do support curriculum and they're engaging, and the kids are learning so much that often our parent council will cover the cost. So these are just four of the teachers. There's Jim, and me and a teacher from Brazil, her name is Teacher Rose, and a principal from Peru, his name is Carlos, and another teacher from Argentina, her name is Anusha. So we all brought our teddy bears back to our classrooms. Some of them were shipped back and forth, and they were there to arrive. The idea was that we started off the school year with these bears in place so that we could start writing about them right away. So actually this is Jim's class. Jim teaches kindergarten and grade 1, and he works clearly in a very rural area where the students, he has quite a few kids that don't even have internet in their homes, but it's quite rural. So he has a toucan from Brazil, and her name is Paula, and Paula went to the fair, and this little boy in particular won the first prize for his pumpkin. So immediately that picture was shared on a blog and sent to Brazil for the partner class to see. So the kids in Brazil learned a little bit about Canada, and the kids in Canada were teaching that rural and urban concept to the kids in Brazil. There's some more pictures here of his students, and they are pretty cute. They went to the pumpkin patch, so again, taught the kids about farming. He also has a koala from Australia. There was a teacher from Australia that they did an exchange, and they actually mailed the bears back and forth. So the koala came in the mail, which was really exciting for the kids, especially, can you imagine kindergarten kids receiving this? It was pretty amazing. And then another aspect, and you know, Jim knows so much more about this, the grade 1-2 curriculum than I do, but there's a new section about job opportunities and you know, what do you want to be when you grow up? So the kids were teaching the other class about what they could be when they grew up. So there was farmer, and there was hockey player, and they were teaching that concept to the others. And then everything got posted on a blog. The great thing, I hope that he has this. So Jim has, and we both have blogs for our teddy bears. So every time something happens with the teddy bears, we post pictures of the teddy bears on the blogs. And also we have a collaborative blog that we share. Oh, he's just responding. Maybe he can call. Louise, just hold on a second. I can't answer him but anyway, so his students had a question when they when they received the koala bear from Australia, they also received a couple of boomerangs, and the kids were fascinated. So this is sort of where some of that STEM stuff comes in, the science and math. So they asked about their partner class about how to make a boomerang. So they received instructions about the boomerangs from their class in Australia. And just the other day, he was saying on Friday, they took the boomerangs outside that they made according to the directions, and they measured how far they they traveled when they threw them. So that was sort of tying in a little bit of the math. And then they reported that on the blog as well. The class also has a cooperative. We have a blog for all of the bears that are in this project. So at any point, we share all of the pictures. So if we take pictures of the bears in certain situations, or at a birthday party, or at a hockey game, or at a landmark, my kids have actually taken a couple of the bears down to the CN Tower because we're talking about landmarks in grade 4 and talk for our regions of Canada. So they've taken pictures and then we posted them on a blog that goes to everybody that's in the project. And if you look down the right-hand side of the page, you'll see that we have classes postings from Argentina, Brazil, Peru, and Australia. So it's a way for all of us to keep in touch with all of the people in the project. And we also have we've also posted Skype sessions and recorded Skype sessions so that other kids can see what's going on in the other countries. Okay, so that's the teddy bear project, and Jim actually says that we can call him. So how about Syria or Louise, I'll send you Jim's phone number. So if you just give me a second, I'll send you his phone number and then maybe he can talk about his project as well. Okay. So our next one, and our next project is one that can definitely can be a social studies based project, because it's one where the participants in the project decide on the content of the project, and it's called the Art Miles Project. So the Art Miles Project is one where 2 classes are paired together. And again, you sign up for this project, and you actually sign up in the spring, because for this project there's actually quite a bit of funding that goes along with it. It's developed in Japan, and the Ministry of Education of the Japanese of Japan pays for the materials for this project, and it also is quite heavily they're involved in it in terms of supporting the project through their education department, not just financially, but provide support for the teachers so that they can participate. So when you sign up for this project, you're pretty much guaranteed to be paired with a class in Japan. And in this project, the 2 classes together will decide on a concept and then teach each other about a specific aspect of their culture or community. So when this particular mural, my class was paired with a class in Japan, and we decided to teach each other about their regions and special parts of the community. And if you look at the new grade 4 curriculum, and it was actually from the grade 4 social studies curriculum last time, we all need to talk about regions of Canada. And really, when you think about it, it's pretty kind of a boring topic. It can be exciting, you know, if kids have traveled to different parts of Canada, but it can be kind of a dry topic. It's not like Egypt and ancient civilizations where it's really exciting. It's not as exciting as it can be, but we made it pretty exciting in our class because the students needed to pretend that they were travel agents and that they needed to entice people to come to visit the certain parts of Canada. And the way that we were going to show what we learned was through a mural. So what we did is we communicated with our class in Japan and taught them about the different aspects of the regions of Canada. So there's the finished project. So what happens in this project is the students in Japan actually initiate the first conversations and initiate the first planning. So we have some class-to-class communication that happens in another password protected they call it a bulletin board space. They're all the same thing. It's just a way for class to class to communicate. And they're all password protected, so the only people that can get into these spaces are ones that have the passwords. So the kids will, in one country, will post an idea in the in this bulletin board space, and the other class, we need to monitor it about once a week so that we see what's happening, and then we respond to them. So here's a couple of examples of what happened in this space. So the class from Japan, we knew that the concept was going to be teaching each other about our regions of each other's country. Because the other thing that we've actually discovered is, as we get into these collaborations and projects with people from around the world, is that kids in different parts of the world, they all kind of need to know the same thing at the same time. Like kids that are 6 years old need to know about celebrations in other cultures. I'm surprised to know that kids in Japan and kids in Australia, and when they're 10 years old, they learn about regions of their country. So it's really interesting when you open up that sort of broader spectrum and you see what's going on. So the kids started sending us sketches about what they would like to learn, and then they painted their half of the mural, and then it came to us, and we painted our half of the mural based on that criteria that we needed to teach about our culture and our regions and community. So here are my kids painting their specific area of, and they're teaching about, I think that's the tourism section. And then, once the mural is completed, we display it for a little while, and then we send it back to Japan, where it actually goes on a tour of the art galleries in Asia. And the person that coordinates this project does an amazing job of showcasing these murals sort of internationally. They've traveled all through Asia, and we're working on getting them into other art galleries around the world so that they can see that these children can communicate through art. So this is a project not really heavy in technology. However, they do communicate about their ideas, but really steeped in art, but also really what they've learned about their, specifically about their regions. I know there have been some murals done with ancient civilizations. I know some of the classes have done some about their First Nations. There have been some about music. There have been murals that have really been created about any topic that you can think of. At this point, we figure that there are about, in the whole Art Miles project that's been going on an extended time for about 12 years now, there's over 6,000 murals that have been created by students around the world, either individually by their classes or within this collaborative Art Miles. So one thing is that when you do join iEARN, and we're going to give you an opportunity to do that at the end of the webinar, when you do join iEARN, we send out newsletters at least 4 times a year. And when we do that, in the spring, we will give you the link to signing up for the Art Miles project. And this is one that fills up really, really quickly because it's been gaining a lot of momentum in the past couple of years. And what we like about it is especially for kids, and a lot of times our ESL kids and our ELL kids have a lot of difficulty expressing themselves in written form, but this way they can express themselves in art form and then explain what they've learned. And we find also the best way of learning something is when you have to teach to somebody else and represent it in a way as well. So a lot of great learning that goes on in this one, and a lot of differentiation as well. And to me, that's just a really great side benefit. Okay, we're going to let you watch, and we're going to actually try and connect with Jim over the phone. So right now, Louise is going to put a link in here, and you're going to see a little video about some of the other global collaborations that happen and the impact that it has on the students. If you go back to that first slide where we're talking about community and caring and character, you'll see through the students' testimonies how excited they are, first of all, about participating in these projects, but also what it does for them personally. So Louise, take it away.
Just a reminder to click on the link in the chat there, and when you're finished with that video, give us a green check mark to let us know you're done.
Okay, it looks like most of us have finished watching the video. So I just want to check with Louise and Syria. Are you able to get Jim?
I see Syria's typing a message there. She got his answering machine, so perhaps that connection might not be working out either.
Yeah, I gotta move that boy to Toronto. Or at least somewhere that has sometimes at night it's not very reliable for him, so that's why we've been going to Starbucks to do these. But as I said, we both had staff meetings tonight. Well, we had probably all had staff meetings tonight because it's first Monday of the month. So scrambling to get home. Maybe I'll get Louise anyway, well, I'll just continue on. I'll tell him he owes me coffee. So another project that we love to talk about and for you to think about is one called the My Hero Project. And if you look at the curriculum expectations and just thinking specifically at the grade 5 and the grade 6, and in grade 5 the students are learning about explorers, and in grade 6 this is a big switch for grade 6 where they're looking at organizations and nonprofits and organizations within Canada that support countries that are in need, or countries or situations that have arisen because of a natural disaster. So organizations like the Red Cross, or organizations like Free the Children or Ryan's Well, who go in and support others around the world. So the My Hero Project actually can be a good project to integrate into a writing and social studies or writing and science, or since we are talking about social studies, where students learn about key people and create hero biographies about them. So for example, the students, I can show you a couple of examples of student writing where they were writing about Craig Kielburger, who is the founder of Free the Children. And so the student had to go in and research about the organization, which is what they need to do in grade 6, and also the person who founded the organization, and create a hero story. And what the My Hero organization enables you to do is to create an individual website where you can publish your hero story, or you can post some artwork where students can do a visual representation of their hero, or whichever figure. They could do some artwork based on some of the explorers, or even in grade 4 some of the First Nations people that they're learning about, and post it to a website, or create short videos, book trailers, and upload them to the site where this work is shared internationally. And what the students find out from the My Hero is that their media is shared with over 4 million youth from around the world annually. So writing for a public audience is a huge motivator for students, and we've had kids who have been non-writers who have written amazing hero stories about people, ordinary people who do extraordinary things and make a difference in the lives of others. So just another way to have the students learning about and showing what they learn in a little bit of a different way is through the My Hero Project. We didn't want to spend a long time with this one because it wasn't specifically a social studies project, but it can have a social studies slant to it by looking at somebody who's made a difference, and especially for our grade 6s, where they do need to research an organization that supports others, a Canadian organization that supports others. So there's a hero story about Craig Kielburger, and then this other story about Ryan, who started Ryan's Well. There's a story, Ryan and Jimmy. This little boy Ryan realized that wells needed to be dug in, I think, Uganda, and then he now has a foundation that helps support people in Uganda building wells and then ultimately building schools. Another great project to support ancient civilizations is the Early People Symbols project. This is one that was in grade 5 and has now moved down to grade 4 in the ancient civilizations area, and where students are learning about the First Nations peoples that were in Canada. And through iEARN, you can join a project called the Early People Symbols, where you're not only learning and teaching others about the First Nations people in Canada, but you're also learning about First Nations peoples and symbols from all over the world. And I think what the kids realized then, and one thing that we really understood from participating in this project, is that the First Nations peoples are all over the world, and there are Aboriginal communities all over the world, and they have such rich history and rich culture and traditions, and one way that you can share is through art. So you're also meeting art expectations by participating in this, when you're participating in this project. So when you sign up for this one, it's very similar as well to all of the other iEARN projects. You go into the forum, you find the space where you can join, join the project, and the project facilitator, in this particular project, her name is Christine, and she will put you in the project and pair you with another classroom that you will be sharing the information about your First Nations peoples and the First Nations art. And what we did a couple of years ago is we wanted a way to showcase what everybody had learned in all of the participants in the project. So we had a class from Morocco, we had somebody from Taiwan, somebody from Australia. Christine's class is in Tennessee, and our class was in Bradford, and we all researched about the art for our First Nations people and shared it in a different way. And we thought, how are we going to actually get all of this information collated? So the students in my class actually went on Google Maps, and they collected all of the information from all of the classes around the world, and they put it into one map. So when you go into the map, and it doesn't actually work, we found a couple of times in Blackboard, but you can, if you go to this map or want to create a map of your own, you could click any of these symbols and up will pop the media that the students created. So whether they created a blog, or they created an art gallery, or they created a video, that media will pop up. But the great thing about it, and we realized when we had the map completed, was the diversity of the First Nations peoples all around the world, and that we weren't the only country that had Aboriginals. And even me, from a learning perspective, I learned so much about the world when we participated in this project. So a really great project to learn about art styles, and also to learn about different cultures and how similar we really are. Because if you compare the art of the Aboriginals from around the world, there's a lot of similarities in the arts that went on, and think that they didn't have the methods of communication that we do now. So it's a really great project to support that grade 4 curriculum and that junior curriculum. There are it just seems to take so long to go from one slide to the other. There are other organizations as well that support the social studies programs. I alluded to Taking It Global at the beginning of the presentation with Jennifer Corriero, who's one of the founders, and she's the executive director. So Taking It Global is another organization that has a huge number of resources available to support your social studies and other curriculums. And even going into high school, they have some for global issues, they have some for careers, they have and for different history courses. They have a huge variety of resources, and I'm going to show you where you can find a couple of them. The Center for Global Education is an organization that provides a series of different topics of video conferences and live stream webinars, and they have topics such as Global Encounters, where they connect with former child soldiers from around the world, and the child soldiers will talk about their situation and what's what's coming up for them and the challenges that they have in their lives. They have video conferences about climate change. They have some about girls' rights. They are actually just in the middle of, if there was somebody in grade 6 who said that they were interested in working on girls' rights. I forget, back in the chat, I forget who that was, but if you go to the Center it was you, Courtney, okay, so if you go to the Center for Global Education, they have a series of webinars about girls' rights in Afghanistan and in Asia. So if you can join that series of webinars, and they actually connect with girls in Afghanistan who are seeking an education, and it just sounded absolutely fascinating. So if you go on their site and look for their series of webinars, you can find out how you can join that and how you can connect with those with that organization. These video conferences are amazing. If it were up to me, my kids would be doing them once a week, but we can't. We're too young to participate in some of them. But I know that there are some fabulous topics in there that will support the social studies curriculum. Oh, the site is the Center for Global Education. So maybe, Louise, can you put that in the chat? The Center for Global Education. Now, Center for Global Education and Taking It Global and iEARN, we all work together. We support each other, and we promote each other's video conferences and projects. So that's why you'll see that something sort of, you'll see that we work together a lot. And when you join iEARN, we'll be sending out information about these series of video conferences as well. So on the Taking It Global site, great resource if you're teaching upper, junior, intermediate, or secondary students. This site is almost overwhelming, so I really wasn't going to focus on too much, but there was one section that I was going to focus on. It's a lot of information in there. You can search if you're studying any global issues with your students, you can go into their global issues site and learn about some of the issues. The great thing about this is a lot of the material is generated by youth around the world. So, for example, when I talked about the child soldier video conference series, several of the child soldiers who participate in that series are people who have contributed material to Taking It Global. So a great wealth of resource for your students in any number of topics. There's peace advocacy, women's rights, food security, and they're all in here. I could spend 4 hours showing you features of the Taking It Global site. It's such a rich resource for students. But one thing I really did want to point out to you was their game section, and their game section is in the action tool part. And we know that students really that we have a lot of gamers in our classrooms, even in the younger grades. I know that, and my kids are huge into Minecraft, and I'm trying to figure out a way, and I have figured out a way for them to integrate Minecraft into their programming. We did a whole unit on creating an ancient civilization in Minecraft last year. But in Taking It Global, they have some games that are heavily based in social issues. They have one called iEARN. It's the game that's in the bottom green. iEARN, it's a family from Haiti that it's based on the life of a family in Haiti and how you can keep the students, their job is to keep that family alive for a year. So they need to make some choices, whether the kids go to school or they eat or they go to the doctor. But it's looking at those choices that we need to make as a society. There's also a few games in there, and really weird to say that there's games about mental health, but there's some gaming topics where the topic is mental health. There's some one in particular that I saw that would be that might be quite interesting to some secondary teachers with global issues and the issue about Darfur and looking at some of the issues the drought in Darfur and the refugees that are coming out of there. Learning about a serious issue by playing a game, and we know that gaming is really important to students and engaging. Next slide. Another side of Taking It Global is what we call TIG Ed, and where Taking It Global is more for the youth, is the youth side and a lot of resources. The Taking It Global education side is where educators can connect and work together on projects. So another, not as many projects as there are in iEARN, but definitely a lot of opportunities to connect with other teachers from around the world and get your students engaged in issues. So on the TIG Ed side, in the program side, there are a lot of different programs that they can participate in. The one that I specifically recommend for social studies, especially for upper, junior, intermediate, and secondary students, is the Global Encounters, where you actually have an opportunity to work with stakeholders in situations where kids, this is where the Child Soldier, you will find the Child Soldier video conference series. There's a series on youth voice, because we know that students are expecting their voices to be heard. They have their connections to Afghanistan. There's some on girls' rights. And if you look at, take time to peruse that side of Taking It Global in the program section, you will find some opportunities to support your social studies. Another organization, and I know I'm going really quickly because I have 8 minutes left, is another great organization is Free the Children. And when I first got involved with them, when Jim and I first got involved with them, we really thought they were just a fundraising organization. We didn't really realize the extent to which they had resources for teachers. And when we've worked with them a few times, supporting their education and their education staff in some programming for Adobe Youth Voices, which is another thing that we do. We realized what amazing resources that they have for teachers to support programs for so many different areas. So when you get into looking into their resources, one that I'd really, really recommend to take a look at is their resources that surround the discussion of Aboriginal rights in Canada. And there's a program called We Stand Together. It's an awareness program where we learn about the issues surrounding the Aboriginals, and on so many levels, but looking at how their rights have really been taken away, and they're working hard to get their rights back. They're looking at the residential schools that happened in the 50s and the issues that were surrounding that, and really wanting the students to understand that our First Nations communities have had difficulty in Canada. It's not just, it isn't something that happens in other countries, that we have had huge issues in Canada. So if you look at the resources in Free the Children, they have so many that support the social studies curriculum, but in particular, the one that I find is just absolutely excellent is in the We Stand Together program, and not just only for intermediate and secondary students. They have curriculum support materials that are in there for even students as young as grade 3, and really understanding the rich heritage that we have from the Aboriginal perspective. So absolutely a fantastic organization to get involved with. First of all, if you can get your children involved in it, your students involved in it, but also as teaching resources. It's absolutely amazing. And Louise, you're amazing, just going into the site and finding all the programming there. It's awesome. And learning circles. Now, when you go into iEARN, there's opportunities for learning circles where you can, it's just another aspect where you can connect with 8 or 10 other classes around the world, and focusing on a more specific issue like My Heroes, and this one has rights around the children's rights around the world. And it's just something new that came up actually yesterday, this particular learning circle. So oh, you can't click on We Stand Together. I'm not going to show you C today because we don't have time for that. So you might be wondering how you get involved with some of these projects. So what you do is you can go to iEARN Canada and just read through some of the information. We now have a new website, we have a blog post, we have a Facebook page, and we have a Twitter account. And you can go to either our Facebook page or our website and see how we join. And it's actually just a blog, but yeah, we're pretty happy with it. We updated it from last. We figured the blog was a little bit more interactive and that it was a little bit easier for us to update. So to join iEARN, you can go to iEARN.org and go to the Join section. And I've got a yellow arrow where the Join section is. And there will be a form to fill out. And once you've joined iEARN, you have access to the forums. Because they are password protected, you don't have access unless you have the password. So you can go into and join. And normally we've had to institute a fee because Jim and I run this sort of as volunteers, and it was costing us money to do that. So we really realized that, and because we have website fees and we have country fees that we have to pay, and we have to file taxes and things like that. And our spouses just said, no, you can't do that anymore. So we had to institute a fee. So it's just a yearly $25 fee, but because you spent the time tonight with us and learning along with us, we're going to waive the fee for anybody that was in this webinar. So when you sign up, if you put OTF in your where it says, how did you hear about iEARN, you put OTF in there, and then we'll just activate your account. And that's just sort of our thank you for coming and learning along with us. And I think that's it. Oh, this is what the Collaboration Center will look like when you get in there. So you'll be able to search the project book, and then you'll be able to specifically go to any of those projects and go into the forum and join the forum. And you're going to see not just the social studies ones that we really briefly went through, but you're going to find so many other amazing projects in there and opportunities to connect your kids to the world and really make a difference and use that technology in a meaningful and engaging way. And I think that's our last slide with 2 minutes to spare. So we really encourage you to have your students learn with the world and not just about it, and meet kids and other teachers from around the world. I know that in our particular case, it's changed it changed us as teachers, and it's also really truly changed our lives. We are really thankful for the opportunities that working with iEARN has brought us, and also what it's done for our kids. And if you think about that global video and go back to the little girl at the end, you know, she talks about what that Machinto project, which is another, it's a language project, but what the Machinto project meant to her. But also when you hear a 10-year-old talking about empathy and compassion and caring, you know that it's not just what they learn in school, but how they learn and how they think. And it really changed their lives and changed ours as well. So if you have any questions about joining or any projects, feel free to reach out to either of us. Oh, and we don't have time to do the exit ticket, but that's okay, because I think I saw everybody in there had 1 or 2 comments about a project that they're interested in. And actually our emails turned out really, really small there. So thanks, Louise, for putting those in. So please feel free to reach out to either of us. Sometimes it might take a day or 2 to get back to you because we are teachers in the classroom, and you know, it's a demanding job. We understand that, and we'll get back to you as soon as we possibly can. And we hope to see you, first of all, register, and then second of all, hope to see you in a project. And if you ever have any questions, we're always available. you can't find the register button. It's on the join page. I'll go back to that slide. So you go to iEARN.org. And go to the join. Louise, it's not going back to the page for me. Can you go back to the one that's just the iEARN International page where it had that join? There was a big yellow arrow. Okay, so there it is. So if you go to iEARN.org and there's a Join Contact Us button. There you go.
Thank you so much, Mally, for sharing so many rich and engaging.
So that's us, and I really apologize that Jim wasn't here because he has so much to add, but I guess that happens when you live in the middle of nowhere.
Thank you, Mally. Thank you so very much for sharing so many rich and engaging ideas and projects. I'm sure everyone here in the room will use these ideas and help them to collaborate with teachers and students around the world through iEARN Canada. Just so many empowering and enriching opportunities for students. And I too am really sorry that Jim was not able to join us tonight. Hopefully there'll be another session in the new year where he will be able to join us. I'd like to thank each of you for giving of your time to participate in tonight's webinar, and certainly do hope that you'll be able to use some of these fabulous ideas that Mally presented to us and project opportunities and engage your students in some of these projects. Do take a few minutes to fill in the exit survey. It's the link in the middle of the screen there. Your feedback is really valuable to us and helps us shape our program, especially as we plan the program for the winter and spring. And use the link at the bottom to search out further webinars that are coming up. We run it easily 3 to 4 a week, so lots and lots of fabulous opportunities. I know we have one on Minecraft coming up soon, and do share the link with your colleagues and encourage them to participate. Thank you all again, and have a good night. Thank you, Mally. And can't forget to thank Louise. She always does such a fabulous job of really keeping us connected and putting in all the links and making sure nothing falls behind. So Louise, thank you so much for all that you do.